What is up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome into the Sactown Sports Kings recap. Coming to you after the Sacramento Kings fall to the Philadelphia 76ers in Philadelphia, 93-112. Whoops, as I have that as the Orlando Magic. That's my bad. Oh, wait, that's so weird. Sorry about that. Let's change that to Philadelphia. Lose to the Philadelphia 76ers, by a score of 93-112 in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia 76ers came into this game on a 3-game losing streak, and so you kind of was hoping without Joel Embiid that the Kings could capitalize on this opportunity tonight, and they just didn't do it. They had you would figure with Joel out that would be a prime opportunity for Domantas Sabonis to really impose his will, like we saw him do against the Pistons, and like we've seen him do just tons of times. Especially here in the past couple games. And tonight he didn't have a field goal attempt for, I think, the first 13 minutes. He had one field goal attempt in the first half, and then immediately took the first shot in the second half. So it was definitely at the front of mind for, I think, Mike Brown and his staff. But I think Domantas Sabonis really should have just been more aggressive. There was moments where he had Mo Bamba on him. Obviously, Paul Reed was guarding him to start the game. I would have liked to see him come out just looking for his shot a bit more and establishing the paint, because we've talked about the last two games really how the Kings have excelled in the paint. They had 82 points in the paint the other night, had 62 in their last game, and then tonight I don't even know what they finished with, but it wasn't good from inside the paint. They finished with 42 points in the paint tonight, just living and dying by the three, and they couldn't hit it. I mean, from three, they shot 21% tonight, 8 for 38. That's terrible. And we've talked about it before, how when this team isn't shooting, they just don't look like they are the top of the Western Conference. Like, they look like a bad team when they can't hit shots. And really, it stood out to me to start this game. Neither team was hitting shots, but you know what Philadelphia was doing? They were still committing on the defensive end, and they understood that, hey, just because we're not making shots doesn't mean that we're going to lose this game. We can still, force the other team into some tough shots, into some tough looks, and maybe it won't be pretty, but we can win a defensive matchup. And the Kings just don't have that in their arsenal. They don't know how to try and win on the defensive end. They play defensively, and there's some teams like the Philadelphia 76ers who are second in defensive rating who, yes, obviously on defense you're playing defense, but you can still be aggressive. You can be the aggressor on the defensive end, and the Kings have not gotten to that level with this Mike Brown team. But it really stuck out to me that this Philadelphia team is more than capable of winning a game on the defensive end, and they're perfectly fine only scoring 112 points as long as they're going to hold their opponent to under 100, which the Kings were absolutely going to do tonight. It was really clear and obvious, I mean, by halftime, really. And, they made a little run to end the half, but, by the middle of the third quarter, this game was decided. And, it's a bit disappointing. Again, they should have taken advantage of this, especially with the Milwaukee Bucks right around the corner on Sunday. That's not going to be an easy matchup. So, you would have liked to take this opportunity and bank in a winning road trip. But now they gotta make up for it in in Milwaukee. And we've seen this team do this countless times now already this season, where it's literally, it's been 2 games where they play well, and then they'll have a step back, and then 2 more wins, and then they'll have a loss. And it's been too much inconsistency in the past month, really. And it feels like this team is barely holding on, frankly. I hope Monty McNair does something at the trade deadline, because I don't see this changing anytime soon. I just think that this team, like I said, is kind of just holding on barely, and I don't think they can do this for 40 plus more games. It feels like at some point something's going to give, And I don't know, it just feels like you need to shake things up or add somebody else to the rotation, add a real contributor to this lineup. Because another thing tonight, I mean, obviously De'Aaron and Domas didn't really have it, but there wasn't another contributor. Malik Monk was completely off. You didn't get anything out of Trey Lyles off the bench. Sasha Vezenkov came in and airballed, I think, 2 shots, had a terrible turnover. Really bad minutes from Sasha tonight. I mean, you just didn't really get any impact off the bench. And then from the starting lineup, you didn't get anything out of Chris Duarte. He played 9 minutes, scored 1 point, and you got nothing out of Harrison Barnes yet again. He played 21 minutes, got 4 points. So, there just wasn't enough from other guys as well. So there's definitely some moves that need to be made, because this team does need just an influx of some other talent here, because clearly the group that's here is good. Again, their record is fine. They're still a top 6 seed in the Western Conference, but when it comes to meeting the occasion, really, I mean, how many times does this team felt like they're they're set up for a big game in which there's a lot of eyeballs on them, or there's potential for a big statement tonight, and they just don't meet the moment. And I think that's a real problem for this team, especially when, these are the easy games. It gets, I almost lost my check there. It gets a lot harder than Philadelphia in the middle of the season. Like, if you're trying to be a really good team, there's going to be some really tough nights at the end of the season in the playoffs. You're going to have to grind things out against some really good teams. You can't just no-show. You're going to have to steal a game here and there. And, man, it just doesn't feel like this Kings team right now is capable of meeting those moments. And it feels like, that's where I understand the conversation of this team needs another star, because it does feel like, they on some nights, the 2 guys who are there, even they need somebody else to bail them out. And it would be nice to kind of have a third fail-safe, because, Keegan was good tonight. Absolutely. Kingpin, I see you. Keegan was not off tonight at all. He was definitely the shining player for the Kings, and that's why, even though he had 15 points and it might not look that impressive, he gets my 3 stars for tonight. I thought he was really good. I thought Keegan was that's what you want from him, and he's still not at the point where he's aggressively creating his own shot or anything like that. So he hit everything that came to him today. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Mega Death Knight. Yes, good to see it back too. I feel like it's been a while since we've seen the Mega Death Knight, but absolutely. In their last 10 games, they are, let me look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're 6-10 in their last 4 games, in their last 6-4 in their last 10 games. But yeah, I mean, it's, again, this team's not terrible. Like, it's not like they're gonna be falling out of the play-in tournament or be a 10 seed or anything like that. They're a good team, but it does feel like they just need another dog, and that's where I understand people talking about even somebody like DeMar DeRozan, who is not like an upper echelon star, but just someone can bring it. And absolutely, we need someone with a killer instinct, someone who you just has what Malik Monk has, but frankly can do a bit more. I mean, if you can get or somebody, again, I think a player of DeMar DeRozan's caliber is more than capable of being somebody who this Kings team could really use, because I do also think that they just need somebody who sets the tone every single night, who is a veteran, who understands in this league you got to show up every single night, and it's tough. And I know you're tired, but everybody's tired. You got to push through it. And absolutely, Michael, I completely agree. Sixers are a tough team. That's another thing that was clear tonight is they're just physical, and that was their message tonight was, we can beat the hell out of you, and they are not afraid to just do damage inside the paint and play super physical. So Shout out the Sixers, who again they're number 2 in defensive rating in the NBA, and that's without Joel Embiid for 10 games. They're more than capable of being physical and playing defense without their big guy. And also, I mean, without Joel, it allows them, much like against the Timberwolves when the Timberwolves didn't have Karl Anthony Towns, it allows them to play a little bit faster too. And you see that with Tobias Harris bringing the ball down the floor. Joel's a really big plotting center. The dude averages 35 points a game. He likes to back it down. He likes to take down the shot clock and play more of a half court offense. And Tobias Harris tonight took advantage, and that fool was on fire. All right, we're going to get Alan in here. Yo.
Yeah.
What is up?
Oh, not too much. Thought maybe things would be different, but here we are.
Yeah, man. I mean, what a night. I mean, at one point, I know at halftime I was tuning into the spaces, and I mean, you did call it. You were like, I just don't see this thing turning around, and it did. The Kings made a little bit of a run there, but man, It just felt like the Sixers. I was trying to tell you, man, this national TV game was not going to be it for the Kings.
No,
it just felt like they were not going to meet the moment.
Well, my thing is, honestly, the Kings not showing up, whatever, but the X's and O's of it, and you probably already talked about it, but making sure that Sabonis didn't get going, I think it's something that other teams are going to replicate, because you don't show up to the park and start chucking threes, right? You get lathered, you get going, and the Sixers said, no layups, no nothing. You guys got to shoot right from tip, and I don't think the Kings were ready for it. Sasha was ready. Well, Sasha was ready.
Oh my God! He came in firing. It was crazy. Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about it all week, but like for Sasha to come in and just shoot that air ball and then just have like the roughest 3-minute stretch, I think it was the complete opposite of whatever JTA's 19 seconds was. Yeah. The greatest 19 seconds anyone's ever seen. It was the complete opposite what Sasha gave us tonight. But man, no, you're completely right. Like, I can't believe after we saw Sabonis, how he came out against the Pistons, like, how do you not just copy and paste that game plan for tonight and say, Sabonis, cook Paul Reed, Mo Bamba? I can't imagine how crazy you were going seeing Mo Bamba go crazy. I mean, that's the dude that we were promised. That was the Mo Bamba we were promised on draft night, and we have not seen it.
That was the dude
that's the dude the song was about.
I'm not even kidding, Chris. Once the game kind of got out of reach, I'm sitting eating dinner, and I'm literally, as I'm taking a bite, I hear, who was it, Monica McNutt? Mo Bamba for 3. I almost lost my whole
He cashed it. I mean, good on him.
It was bad, man. And he made an impact early. He had about 2-3 blocks. I think one of the things we haven't complained about with the Kings team is them being soft at the rim, because they just don't drive that much. What happened was they weren't making threes because of the whole Sabonis thing. Then they said, okay, let's try to get to the cup. And the Sixers said, yeah, that's not going to work either. And they had nothing.
No, I mean, and also it's like, again, shout out the Sixers. Like they're nice. They've played enough games without Joel at this point too, to where it's not that weird for them. But for them to come out and play that kind of defense, that was really impressive. Because I mean, you heard me today. I definitely put the Sixers in a lower tier than teams like the Celtics and teams like the Bucks. And on a night like tonight, you see like that's some legit stuff, and that's where the Kings are different than a team like a team like the Sixers too, because there's levels to this stuff, and the Sixers just kind of showed that that's what you do. How many times have we talked this season too about the Kings, not being able to, if De'Aaron Fox isn't in the game, there's no way they're going to win that game.
No, and you said the same thing about Sabonis, right? It's like, okay, well, Sabonis isn't in the game. You probably don't have much of a shot, so I don't know, man. I think that this is a scary game not because they got blown out, which is funny because we're just used to it, but because of how they got blown out. And I think other teams are definitely going to replicate that. And at this point, when you look at the rotation and not try to put it all on Coach Mike Brown, but the bottom line is that they're looking for answers. And I just tweeted this not too long ago, but Coach Mike Brown trusts about 6 guys on that roster. He really should trust 5 because he trusts Harrison Barnes, and I don't think anybody else should.
No.
That's not a recipe for success. I think the Celtics in the finals a couple years ago, eight guys that you filter through, okay, we're good to go. But you're sitting at he's playing more than 6, but he only trusts 6, and that's a problem. That's a problem.
No, I mean completely. Like, I mean, they always say once you get to the playoffs, that's exactly right. You only end up playing like 7 to 8 guys, and at the end of the day, those are the guys that you're going down with. And Mike Brown is clearly, like you said, I mean, I think he knows who 4 of those guys are. I mean, I think it's clear that De'Aaron, Domas, I mean, the core 4 really are the guys that he's comfortable with, and Trey Lyles, I guess, would be his 5th. But after that, I mean, I think it's clear that they don't know who those other guys are, and that's where I think Monty McNair is going to have to step in. And I definitely think if this team wants to go to another level, to me, I mean, I just think that it's clear that this team needs some more talent.
Yes, and look, I'll end this on a positive note before I get out of here. You holding it down as usual, regardless of the result, and you are doing God's work to be able to do that in some of these blowouts. But look, they got the games they were supposed to get, and now after that, we said get one of them. Now you would have thought that the Sixers would have been the easier one with no Joel Embiid, but we know how this Kings team is. So get one of them, and I'd be very happy with this road trip. But I'll tell you what, if I'm the Bucks, I'm sitting Giannis. Because why not?
You have a better shot.
It's an automatic W. All right, man, I'm going to get out of here.
All right.
You'll like the beam on Sunday. It'll be okay.
I know.
Everybody listening. All
right. Appreciate you hopping on, Alan. All right. Well, there you go. Sorry about the echo. I had to put the headphones on. That's on me. It's a learning lesson. That's our first time having a guest on. We're going to try and have more guests on throughout the year. But shout out Alan for hopping on there. And definitely go check out Alan's Beam Spaces at halftime. We're hoping that thing can become a cool community, but also a place where people can vent their frustrations in the middle of the game. Because there's not really an open forum for people during halftime. So definitely go check out Alan's Beam Spaces at halftime. Let's get over to some of the comments here. I did see something that caught my interest here. A lot of people pointing out absolutely Bobby Jackson in the building. Definitely noticed Bobby and also, I mean, there was also somebody who was on Luke Walton's staff that I cannot remember his name, but I recognized. Also, Rico Hines was in the building. Shout out Rico. So a lot of old Kings blood on that Nick Nurse coaching staff. But I was telling my friends, it wouldn't surprise me if Bobby Jackson actually did game plan for the Kings. I know Coach Mike Brown will do things where his assistant coaches, he will assign each assistant coach a game, an upcoming game. So let's just say he'll say, hey, Coach Christie, you're going to scout and game plan for the Milwaukee Bucks. So 3 or 4 games in advance, Doug will watch, the last 4 or 5 Bucks games and write their tendencies and write where he thinks the Kings can exploit them and things like that. And it'll be on Doug to essentially get the coaching staff up to speed, either on game day or the day before, up to speed on all those things that he's researched. So I say all that to say it wouldn't surprise me if Coach Nick Nurse assigned Bobby Jackson to have this Kings game, since he has an incredible amount of familiarity with this coaching staff, with these players, and just with the organization as well. Definitely wouldn't surprise me if Bobby Jackson had something cooked up for how to slow down this Kings team, as he was obviously sitting front row for a lot of Kings games, and also was in with the Stockton team last year. So has a little bit of insight on just about everything. Let's see here. Do you feel like the Kings are still building towards a genuine championship contender? It seems some people have overly high expectations. We just need to be patient. First off, excellent question, because I do believe that every team should realistically ask themselves this question at the start of every year. Are we legitimately trying to win a championship? And I think that has been an open-ended question for this Kings team. I think, honestly, Monty McNair would answer and say, we could if we wanted to, but it would not be their expectation. I think their expectation would not be to win a championship. I think they believe they're building towards a champion, absolutely. I don't know if you would say this season they expect to win a championship realistically. I think, again, they could change that. They could that would be making a move at this deadline. That would definitely be more of a, yeah, see, we're definitely going for the championship. But honestly, I think if you were to ask Monty McNair and give him some truth serum, I think I would guess that they are hoping for playoffs first and foremost. I think they're definitely saying that should be a guarantee for this season. There's no excuse for them not making the playoffs. I would say Monty probably expects a second round appearance from this team, and anything more than that would be gravy. I don't think that they actually believe that this team. I think that maybe they believe if things go their way, they could find themselves in a Western Conference Finals. But no, I don't think that at this very moment in time they're building. Or even if you're asking just contention in general, are we 2 or 3 years away? Then I think yes, absolutely. I think that there's a world in which if the Kings were to go all in and push their chips in, I definitely think that they're not too far from a champion. I think that they're, I would say, 2 moves away from being in the actual championship contention conversation. I think they need to bring in another high caliber player, and I think that they need another impactful role player. I think those things, I'll just keep it as broad as that, but I would say that they're probably 2 moves away. But I mean, even still, if things go their way, we've seen teams like the Atlanta Hawks, the team Kevin Huerter was on, that went to the Eastern Conference Finals. We've seen, that Dallas Mavericks team surprise people and end up in the Western Conference Finals. Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum. So, injuries can go your way, matchups can go your way. A lot of things can end up being in your favor in the playoffs, and sometimes you just gotta get to the tournament and hope that you're healthy and you're playing well, and honestly hope that your players are peaking at the right time. But yeah, I definitely think that this team is building towards a champion. I don't think that they are, this season a champion, but again, they can get really close this year, I think, to being in contention. Let's see here. Yes, absolutely. Well, look at that. We're in lockstep. This roster is a piece or 2 away. Absolutely. Hopefully we get to the second round. Look at that, man. We're just sitting. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point that I didn't even think about from tonight. Tonight did not spark my blowout alarm. Tonight, definitely, you can throw it in the pot of blowout losses. Oh my gosh. Oh, just annoying. I mean, I guess, it's not. I guess it's a 15-plus point loss. It would be nice if it fell in the 20-point loss pile, because it did feel like just a terrible night, and it felt like it should have gone as a big blowout. So 19 kind of does the Kings some favors. It doesn't quite do the game justice. So yeah, another blowout loss, which is adding to the list. I think you can say that's 10, if I'm not mistaken. Let's pull up Basketball Reference here. The Kings I mean, yeah, and it's that's the thing that makes me almost it kind of almost levels out all of the Kings' good wins for me because of just how often they get blown out. Because you don't have to lose big. Just because you lose does not mean you have to lose by 15 plus. You can still be competitive in these games. And the fact that when they lose so many times this season, they've just been completely uncompetitive. It's inexcusable. So I'm counting 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to count a 10-point loss. 5, 6, 7, 8. Count it as 9. Nope, that's their 10th. That's 10 blowouts this year by my count. 10 of their, how many losses do they have? 15 losses. 10 of their 15 losses. 66% of their losses are blowouts. That's a problem. Like, that is, you can't tell me that's not concerning. That you can't tell me that means nothing. I know in today's NBA teams get blown out more than ever or whatever. You're seeing 50-point blowouts or 60, I think it was yesterday from the Portland Trail Blazers. I get it, but it just if you're a great team, it just feels like great teams don't get blown out this often, and it's just really really confusing because the Kings do have a lot of quality wins, but it just feels like for every 2 steps forward, there's like 4 steps back. That's an exaggeration, but. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I definitely, both of you guys I agree with. I think 2 pieces away and 1 to 2 years away, I would definitely say, is how I'm feeling. Yeah, what a joke. Worst loss by the coaches. I'm just curious why. I have seen a couple people talk about the coaches for tonight. What specifically about the coaches or the coaching? Is it the game plan you had an issue with? Because I would definitely, I mean, for me, again, like I told Alan, like I think I have a problem with if the game plan wasn't for Sabonis to attack early. I don't understand that. That's definitely a big question mark with me. Monica McNutt asked not Mike Brown, Mark Jones on the broadcast why De'Aaron Fox was guarding Tobias Harris. I mean, it is because the Kings switch a ton, but it is a valid question. Like, I don't quite know. Just because switching is in fashion doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do for your team. I don't know. I mean, I would say no. The Kings aren't a long, versatile defensive team. Like, I don't know if they have the personnel to necessarily say we can switch because we have a lot of. I mean, I would not describe. I think the Kings do a good job of making their especially their starting rotation as switchable as possible with especially with Duarte out there and HB and Keegan. I mean, ideally that's why you have HB and Keegan out there. Those are 2 forwards who shouldn't kill you if they get switched on. But I mean, they're not good defenders. I think that's the problem. And so the question is, if you already have bad defenders straight up, why would you then accept the mismatch? Shouldn't you? It just feels like you should try and keep your guys. You're already at a disadvantage. You shouldn't further that disadvantage. It's definitely a good question. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't want to question Mike Brown too much because, frankly, again, I don't necessarily think I'm right, but I think it is fair to question. What would you upgrade? Starting shooting guard or power forward? I would say power forward. I think if you upgrade the power forward spot, you're probably going to do a better job of raising your ceiling. Just because I feel like I always have said this, I think the forward position, especially small forward, if you can get a small forward who's or just a forward who's more mobile, honestly, is more what I mean. But if you can get a forward who's, there's a reason why the Paul Georges, Kawhis, Giannis's, KD's, LeBron's, those are the guys who run the NBA. It's because they have the size to match up with everybody, but they also have the skills of the guard. And so if the Kings can get a versatile guy who's tall and can dribble and can shoot and can defend, I mean, that's everything you're looking for in a player. And if the Kings get a shooting guard who can shoot and defend, of course that's nice, but it's not a blanket problem solver. If the Kings get, again, I'll just throw Kyle Kuzma out there, and let's say Kyle Kuzma is playing the best basketball of his life, and he's using his length for good defensively. You can throw Kyle Kuzma on. There's Devin Booker. You can throw Kyle Kuzma on Devin Booker in this perfect world. But, if you trade for even a guy I'm huge on, Alex Caruso, or Zach LaVine or whatever, those guys can guard guards, but then, they can't guard Devin Booker and Paul George, where, it's more just in my eyes, forwards are just more valuable in today's NBA. So that's a long way of saying I would go with power forward. Interesting. So the blitzing Maxey is what you had an issue with. I didn't have an issue with blitzing Maxey because, frankly, I mean, Maxey and Tobias Harris were the only two players who were going to kill you tonight, and that still ended up happening. I think the bigger problem was you looking at the rotations. I mean, everyone was late on their rotations. More specifically, I saw it a couple times. Harrison Barnes was really late on a lot of rotations down to that big. Specifically Paul Reed. So I kind of think against the Sixers when they don't have Joel and it's going to be a lot of Tyrese Maxey, if you can try and neutralize Maxey, which they didn't do a good job of, but if you can successfully do it, I mean, I think that plan isn't a bad plan. Let's see here. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I just think a power forward is just a lot more useful. Again, a lot more versatile. And offensively too. I mean, how many times have the Kings just gotten killed because of how many times can you just get killed because, and I don't think tonight's that case, but you just get killed because you aren't long enough and you really struggle with teams that can get into passing lanes and teams that can, get their hand in your shot a little bit easier. It'd be nice if the Kings can just have some guys that can shoot over defenders, and they just really don't have that right now. Let's see here. What's Mitchell's role with this team? Great question. What's Mitchell's role with this team? Could he back up Fox when he's in a slump? Or is the team trying to see what Ellis can do when they put him in? Definitely, I'm going to start with the last part. I definitely think a bit of Keon playing right now is, they got to get an answer on him. I kind of said this last year when it came to Neemias Queta. You can only have this dude as your two-way for so long before it's like, hey, every single year there's a new crop of guys that you can give that two-way contract to. So at some point, he can't be 5 years in the NBA and on a two-way contract. You got to get an answer on these guys at some point, and you got to put them in real game action and see what you think of them. And I definitely think a bit of Keon playing right now is them trying to get an answer. Because he does have that, I think it's 51 games that he's allowed with his two-way contract in the NBA. So, they got to get those games in early. And if they like what they see from Keon, I think it seems like they're trending towards picking up his option. But honestly, with how little he's been playing recently, it wouldn't surprise me if they cut him and they just, open up that roster spot and see what happens at the deadline, because they can always pick him back up. You saw what they did with JTA. It wouldn't surprise me if either of those two things happen. So that's my thoughts on the Keon thing. As far as Davion Mitchell, I think he's probably traded. I don't really think he has a role with this team. It's just tough. It's really tough when he's a small guard. Like I feel like I've said it on here before, but especially again when you're a team that switches, Monty McNutt wondering why De'Aaron is on Tobias. Imagine wondering, well, Davion Mitchell on Tobias Harris. What's he supposed to do when he's switched on guys like that? That's really the problem with Davion is he's a great point of attack defender. I tried to think of an example or like a cross sports reference for it, and I think I might have found it. Please don't kill me if this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but workshop with me for a minute here. It's like Davion Mitchell is a really good run blocking lineman on a pass first team. It's great that he can do that, but I don't want to say that's not really what we do, because when we do run the ball, we need it. Like when we do need a defensive focused lineup, we need guys like Davion Mitchell. If we want to be a better defensive team, having guys like Davion Mitchell is absolutely essential. But he's really specifically that, and he's not very good at he's good at run blocking, but I wouldn't say he's a good blocker because he's not a very good pass blocker also. So he's really good at that one specific thing, but I wouldn't say he's overall good at the skill. He's good at point of attack defense, but if you're going to switch him onto other guys, he becomes a lot less effective. And then, offensively, he's just a guy. I mean, even if he's not a good shooter, and even if he was a good shooter, he would just be barely passable enough to justify it, and he would have to be so ridiculously good on the defensive end that it justified his offense. It's almost like, just think of it as the inverse. Like, think about how good of an offensive player you have to be to forget about your defense. It's like Cam Thomas. It's like the reverse Cam Thomas. So I don't know if it feels like that's like I'd give myself like a C- for that. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm workshopping it. So please forgive me for that. And yeah, the power forward, I see a couple people asking about my power forward. Again, I think my perfect power forwards like Chet Holmgren, Evan Mobley in Cleveland. A guy like that I think would be perfect. Someone who could protect the rim but also be on the perimeter on the offensive end. I think that would be like the ideal person to put next to Sabonis. There's not many of those guys out there either. That's the crazy thing, and that's why it's going to be really tough to try and find somebody. Let's see here. Would we trade HB or Malik Monk? Man, one and the same there. I would definitely trade HB. I would fly HB to the airport. Absolutely. I mean, it seems like if the Kings do make a trade, I would be shocked if Harrison Barnes or Kevin Huerter are not involved at this point. Is definitely where it's gotten to. I mean, he's just not productive enough. On given nights, he's way too inconsistent. He's a Swiss Army knife. He's got the ability and he's got the skill to do just about anything on the basketball floor. Shout out Allen who coined a dull Swiss Army knife. Is really what you can say about Harrison Barnes. He's probably gonna go. Yeah. And Malik Monk, I mean, I think if the Kings aren't I think Malik is essential to this team on the floor. Absolutely. Like if the Kings want to have success this season, it'd be tough to trade Malik Monk. Regardless of who you bring back, just because he's so essential to how this team has played all year. His pop off the bench is so essential. Like, I don't know if they would be able to adjust with this many games left in the season, but, if it'll get you a guy, I'm not opposed to it. I know it would hurt so much. Malik is my favorite player to watch on this team, hands down. De'Aaron is definitely a close second, but Malik is just so fun. So it would hurt to see him go, but if Malik greatly reduces the price for a third star for this team, I think you have to consider it. I don't know if you end up doing it, but I definitely think you have to consider it because he still is. We got to think about it. Him and De'Aaron, same age, same draft class. Like, we don't think of Malik as that prize asset like you would. Like we do for Keegan Murray. Malik Monk is absolutely the Kings' second best asset if they're looking to trade. He's $9 million a year. Kings, might not be able to re-sign him. And I mean, if the Kings end up losing Malik Monk for nothing and can't replace him, that could be really bad too. In hindsight, being 2020, we could look back and say, wow, how did Monty McNair not get anything for Malik Monk? We give Monty McNair, or I think people have forgotten about it, but for a long time, people gave Monty McNair crap because the first thing he did as a GM was get nothing for Bogdan Bogdanovic. And so, I could imagine, I can definitely see people saying the same thing if Malik Monk walks. So, again, I think you need to consider it. But I don't think the Kings are actively shopping Malik. Absolutely not. Let's see here. No, absolutely not, Street Thumper. There's no way. Do I think the Kings make no moves before the deadline and just go with this group of guys and see how far they can go and hope for the best? There's no way. The Kings are doing something. They're adding a rotation piece. They have to. They just have to. I mean, Monty already did the sit back and watch thing last year. I can't imagine he's going to do the same thing this year. I mean, if Monty would have done something at the deadline last year, they probably would have won the first round series. I just think he's going to catch a lot of flack if he does nothing at this deadline, because it's really clear that this team is at best winning one series, and I think a lot of us are wondering if that's even going to be the case. So if he wants to achieve something more than possibly just a first round victory, he's got to make a move. And again, I think that a little can go a long way here. I definitely think that if you just I'll just throw the names that are out there: the Dorian Finney-Smith, the Matisse Thybulles, again, my guy Alex Caruso. There's a couple different fringe guys out there. I mean, I'm still not opposed. I know Jared Vanderbilt's not scoring well and not really playing well in general this year for the Lakers, but I would not be opposed to a guy like Jared Vanderbilt as well. I think that they have to make a move if they want to be serious about getting out of something more than just the first round. Yeah, I don't know what was going on tonight, man. That was crazy. Just for them to miss that much. I mean, I put a meme out there. They were in 4 different cities in 4 nights, okay? I think I laid it out the other night, but Monday they were in Sacramento. Tuesday they flew into Detroit. Wednesday they flew into Charlotte. And then Thursday they flew into Philadelphia. That's 4 different cities and 4 different nights. That is a lot. They're in the middle of the road trip right now. They still, I think they're probably landing in Milwaukee tonight, if not tomorrow. So, they're in the middle of this thing. So you could imagine how it would be tough to kind of get, if you're ever going to be dragging, it's probably going to be right now. And, I don't like it as an excuse. I think it's just a thing that people in the media say. It's honestly something that I've heard my entire life, being somebody who listened to people cover the Kings my entire life. I'm used to just about every excuse in the book for why the team is losing. But it's still a fact nonetheless, regardless of what we think about if it's overreaction or you're playing basketball, how much does flying on a plane really matter? It is a fact. 4 cities in 4 nights. So, I guess cut him a little bit of slack. The comments are great today. Love the interaction tonight. Love that we can have a great 45-minute stream going, even on a big loss. So shout out y'all for always being in here and always having fun. Having some good talks. Man, y'all really are just like not messing with Mike Brown these days. All right, no, I feel it. I hear you. No, I definitely hear you. I get it. I'm not saying Mike Brown is blameless. I'm definitely not saying Mike Brown is blameless on a night like tonight. I'm just saying in general, like what I think in general, if this team wants to. I have no problem saying they got outcoached. They definitely got outcoached tonight. I think I even said Bobby Jackson outcoached them. I think I laid out the reason why they probably got outcoached. I'm not saying they didn't get outcoached. I'm just saying the players also can impact the game as well. And they got outcoached tonight, everybody. I said it. The Kings got outcoached tonight. There you go. Just like Mike Brown. Just like Mike Brown says all the time. They kicked our behinds. He'll say Nick Nurse. He kicked my behind, and Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. They all kicked our behinds tonight. So shout out them. That's all he ever says. That's all he ever says. Every time the Kings get blown out, he's like, they kicked our behinds from head to toe. But do y'all really think that it's just like, if the coach is admitting that it's they're kicked all of our behinds, now of course it can't happen every time. You really think every time it's Mike Brown's fault? Every time this team has gotten blown out, you think it's Mike Brown's fault? I just don't get I don't get this hive. I just need someone to explain this hive of fire Mike Brown. Okay, let's say he's gotten outcoached. I don't know, whatever. Let's say he gets outcoached every time the Kings have lost this season. Every single loss has been because Mike Brown has gotten outcoached this season. Let's play a game here, okay? What are we doing? Are we firing Mike Brown? Like everything that he's building, none of the accountability, none of the fact that, like, do we need to go back? Do we need to go back to having Luke Walton and Dave Yeager? Like, I mean, Mike Brown is hands down the best coach that the Kings have had since Mike Malone. Period. And Mike Malone was the best coach the Kings had, I mean, probably since Rick Allen. And that was true even at the time. But, like, you can't fire a coach because he has... Sometimes it's bigger than just game plans. Like, coaching is not just day-to-day or game-to-game game plans. That's not on just the head coach. There's a lot of people who build out the game plan. Okay? The coach is more overseeing everything, as a matter of fact. Okay? Like, I don't think you guys fully understand what a head coach does. Maybe that's our fault. Maybe that's the media's fault for not properly explaining to you. But, like, Mike Brown's job is to keep these, and that's why I don't understand I understand some of the Steve Kerr slander, but, like, also a lot of this head coaching thing is just managing personalities too. Like, the X's and O's stuff, a lot of that is passed down to the assistant coaches, to the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. The head coach is just receiving tons of information, and he really gets the final call on it all. The other guys are the ones who are doing all the real heavy lifting. I'm not saying Mike Brown does nothing all day, but, like, building the game plan is part of the entire coaching staff. The coach you blame for, if teams just, like, you could, like, if they aren't giving, like, if they're giving up on games, I would blame Mike Brown maybe for not having his team properly prepared, properly aware of the situation. But also when you hear his own players say, we just didn't go out there and execute, then that's the players admitting it's not Mike Brown. I don't get it. I don't get it. X's and O's are not everything. The daily game plan is not everything. There's a lot that goes into head coaching. You cannot just fire somebody because you don't like what they do with their 7th and 8th man in their rotation, okay? And even if you don't like what Mike Brown does in his starting lineup, like, there's more to this thing than coaching. And if the Kings were losing tons of games, then sure, we can have maybe more conversations. But the Kings are still successful, okay? If they're playing poorly, and if this is bad for this Kings team and they have the record they do now, I'd love to see what they look like when they're playing well. Okay, so let's relax there. And yes, absolutely, he won Coach of the Year last year unanimously. So we can't just. I know that coaches of the year have been fired before in the past. Even the same offseason that they got named Coach of the Year. But this dude just got here. He just started building a program. The Kings just got out of a 16-year playoff drought, and some of y'all just want to throw it away. I don't get it. I swear some of y'all are not actually Kings fans. It's crazy. It's actually crazy. All right, let's get out of here. I need to get out of here. I've been on here for 50 minutes. I need to go enjoy my weekend. This was a terrible, terrible loss. I will see y'all Sunday after the Bucks game. Y'all have a fantastic night. Peace out.